Am I the antagonist for asking my ex why he has my name tattooed on him in front of his new girlfriend? My ex and I broke up 3 months ago, and he has another girlfriend. For the last 2 weeks, my friends have been telling me my ex has a tattoo of my name on his chest. I never believed them because he never got it done while we were together, and it made no sense to get it after he broke up with me, especially since he told me only 2 months ago that he wants nothing to do with our unborn baby. I saw it for myself yesterday as he was wearing a shirt with the buttons open and the tattoo was visible. I know it's just a name, but I was pretty upset when I saw it. I ended up asking him why he had my name tattooed on him in front of everybody, including his girlfriend. I want to be completely honest, so I'm going to admit the way I said it was a little rude and aggressive. Things got really awkward because he didn't respond at first and everybody was blatantly listening to our conversation. I asked him again and he asked me why I cared. We ended up arguing, mostly because I was getting more upset the more he spoke, so he excused both of us so we could speak in private. After, when things had calmed down, 3 of my friends pulled me aside and said I shouldn't have confronted him like that in front of everybody, especially his girlfriend who left because she was so upset and embarrassed. Am I the antagonist? NTA. If I found out that an ex got my name tattooed on them after we broke up, I'd probably freak out too. That girlfriend of his should honestly kick him to the curb, if not for the fact of the bizarre tattoo, but because he's actively abandoning his baby. NTA, it's creepy AF that a former partner would permanently etch your name in his body after you broke up. It's even creepier that he'd do it when you're pregnant with a child that he helped create and says he wants nothing to do with. He doesn't want to be involved with the child, but he's so obsessed with you that he tattooed your name on his body? I feel like the people saying YTA have got to be 14 years old. Someone you are not involved with and in fact have an actively antagonistic relationship with, post-romantic relationship, permanently marking their body with your name seems like a really unhealthy sign of obsession/control/ownership of some sort. He is taking a figurative/symbolic part of you and making it part of him. It's beyond gross, and I don't blame you for confronting him. It sounds very upsetting. I'm really sorry that you're dealing with that, and with him in general refusing to step up for your child. You're definitely not the a-hole. NTA. It's incredibly weird to get a tattoo of someone's name after you break up, especially if you have a kid with them that you plan on abandoning. I'm just blown away that anyone else there would be more focused on you embarrassing them. He embarrassed himself with showing off the tattoo with you, his GF, and others there. If he doesn't want to have questions asked about the tattoo, he shouldn't have it showing enough for you to be able to read it. What did he think would happen when you end up seeing that tattoo? Sure, you could have taken it more private before the Q&A, but would he have even given a straight answer or made the time for it if not pressured? Your reaction was reasonable, Mo, considering it's very bizarre that he'd get it after running off to be a deadbeat father. Plus, his GF should also be hounding him on it, since with that question it makes it obvious he didn't get it while in a relationship with you. Am I the antagonist for banning my husband from visiting my sister with me because he won't stop trying to debate her and her husband? My sister, Marie, 29, and her husband Zach, 40, had their first child, a beautiful baby girl, 2 months ago. They have been pretty nervous parents, so when my husband Tom, 42, and I, 37, were invited to finally meet our niece, I was thrilled, except I was worried about Tom making an ass out of himself. You see, Tom and Marie have always had a hard time getting along because they do not agree on nearly anything, and Tom has always gotten a kick out of challenging Marie on their differing views because they are both very opinionated. The thing is, to Tom, it is funny to watch Marie react when he says things to provoke her, and Marie always wants to prove his views wrong. In his head, because she was in grad school for social sciences, she finished right before having her baby, and is knowledgeable about the topics that Tom wants to argue about. Marie shouldn't have a problem with debating him because it's literally her job. In the past, both Tom and Marie have initiated these arguments, and they have both been guilty of taking it too far in the past. But ever since she got pregnant/had a baby, Marie has calmed down a lot, whereas Tom still tries to bait her into debates about touchy subjects, mainly politics and personal values. This got to a point where Marie blocked him on all social media a few months ago. Before we went to visit, I asked Tom to just be nice to Marie and Zach and not start anything. Tom said that he would try his best. I told him I would be very upset with him if he tried to bait Marie or Zach into an argument. Tom started out the evening pretty strong and kept to himself until it was revealed that Zach was going to be the one to stay home with their daughter. Tom made a comment like, "Oh, I thought Mom was supposed to do that." Zach said that it was pretty sexist for Tom to say that, and when Tom asked how, Zach told him that moms can have careers too, and that Marie shouldn't give up all the hard work she just did. Tom started on a tangent and Marie cut him off and told him to either quit or leave because she's done entertaining his nonsense. Tom laughed it off, but it was still very awkward after this. We didn't stay for long after, and when we got home, I told Tom that I am done with him embarrassing me and that he's not allowed to join me whenever I visit Marie again, if I'm even invited back. I told him that it doesn't make him look smart when he always insists on having these conversations, that it just makes him look like an ass and me like a fool. Tom said I'm blowing this way out of proportion and that it's not his fault that they got so offended, and that if anything they were rude to kick him out over his opinion. But Marie didn't do anything to him this time. She didn't snap back at him. She didn't call him names. She just asked him to stop. Am I the antagonist? Am I being unreasonable? They were rude to kick him out over his opinion. They kicked him out over his behavior. Tom is the very definition of an arsehole. He doesn't need to do any of this. He just does it to make other people feel bad. NTA, but why are you married to this human? He sounds truly insufferable. NTA. Tom sounds like the kind of guy who likes to pick fights just to see the fallout, because it's ultimately about control. He likes seeing the effect he has on people and seeing them get upset over something he says. Adults can control themselves as well. Adults also take responsibility for their actions and try to better themselves without resorting to it's their fault they got offended at something I said. This is toddler shit. Tom needs to grow up and realize the whole I'm an intellectual and must therefore debate everyone always, all the time. Stop being cute in high school. Your sister at least has gotten better, but your husband is very much an AH still. I recommend you call your sister and apologize and tell her that you're not going to be letting him come with you when you see her anymore. No, you didn't individually do anything to apologize for, but if you can stomach it, apologizing on his behalf will smooth the waters a bit. And so will making sure that she knows you understand the problem and you're on top of it. Am I the antagonist for banning my niece from my grandmother's funeral after what she did at my mother's? My grandmother just passed away. We're in the middle of planning her funeral, and I really only have one request. One particular person, we'll call her Shannon, needs to be banned from it. This sounds bad, but hear me out. Shannon is my sister's stepdaughter. When Shannon was 12, her mother passed away a little under 2 months before mine and my sister's mother. Shannon's father couldn't allow her to go to her mother's funeral because our own mother was severely ill. They had 2 very young kids, so they would have had to allow her to fly cross-country alone and then risk a kidnapping from the extended relatives. She was obviously very hurt by this, and their solution to that was to, unbeknownst to anyone else, make her think that my mother's funeral was about her own mother as well. At my mother's funeral, we were blindsided by pictures for not only my mother, but also my niece's mother as well. They'd also gotten a hold of the urn and had that prominently on display. They basically turned it into a joint funeral, and my niece played it up 100%. She acted like she was the primary mourner and gave a full 5-minute eulogy to just her mother. It was ridiculously inappropriate and turned what should have been a nice memorial into a drama-filled sideshow. My mother and Shannon's mother had never met, so we had to tell the full story of my sister's husband's first marriage when it should have been just about my mother's life. I'm not willing to risk any of that again for my grandmother's funeral, so I want her banned. Yes, it was wrong of the adults to enable it to happen. But she had to have known better. I could even forgive it if she had ever in the last 10 years apologized at all, but she defends it and acts like she deserved to do it because her father and stepmom, my sister, didn't let her go to her mother's funeral. Yes, it's not good that they didn't, but unfortunately things happen and it doesn't give you a free pass to just do whatever you want to do. Word has spread, and relatives that aren't even my sister and her husband are mad at me over this. They think I need to just let it go and I can't just ban family from a funeral, especially over something they did over a decade ago. Am I really that wrong to still be angry over this? YTA. She was 12 and people lied to her. It was your sister and her husband that made a farce out of your mother's funeral, but you want Shannon banned? For something she did when she was 12, had just lost her mother, wasn't allowed to go to the real funeral and was led to believe it was a joint funeral? What exactly are you afraid of is gonna happen during this funeral that makes this ban the slightest reasonable? Wow. YTA, everybody except Shannon is a massive aholy, honestly. Also, I'm wondering if your sister arranged it and paid extra for that? Funeral home staff are used to dealing with difficult grief and emotionally laden conflict situations. Also, they get paid for their services and use of that space. If it wasn't arranged ahead of time, I would guess the funeral home staff would have gently intervened and not let people essentially steal their services. Your sister and her husband are massive assholes. Him for not prioritizing his child going to her own mother's funeral, and both for setting this up at your mother's funeral instead of setting up another service for her mom. You are a huge massive asshole because you are calling a child's grieving behavior at a service the child was told was for their mother was playing it up and a drama-filled sideshow. In regards to her own mother's funeral, she was the primary mourner for her mother. It's honestly sick that you ignore the fact that adults, your sister and her husband, set this up and told her that and put her in that situation, and you have no compassion at all and blame a 12 years old for grieving and doing what she was told essentially. And you're scared it's going to randomly happen again 10 years later? It makes no sense that you think there would be a random repeat when the circumstances are totally different. Your niece is an adult and I would assume your sister won't be lying to her again and setting her up again. You are a massive asshole. YTA, Shannon was robbed of an opportunity to say goodbye to her mother. As a teenager, how should she have known better? Unfortunately, things happen, and it doesn't give you a free pass to just do whatever you want to do. Sounds like you need to practice what you preach. She was a grieving 12-year-old surrounded by adults with extremely poor boundaries. She didn't understand. I have high expectations for kids, and at 12? She didn't know. She defends it now because she knew she was entitled to her grief and was denied the chance to go to her own mother's funeral, and at the end of the day she didn't orchestrate this. She's defending her grieving 12-year-old self. Does it suck? Yeah. But she's being held weirdly accountable for something she didn't create. I don't think it's appropriate to cut her off from grieving other family members at their funerals as a result. And logically, why would it happen again? Am I the antagonist for being upset that my sister skipped my wedding for her cat? My 28 male wedding was last weekend. Most of my family were not invited because they are very homophobic and I've had to cut most of them out over this. The only person that was invited from my immediate family was my older sister, 31 female, who has always been very supportive. She helped with a lot of the planning process leading up to the wedding. The issue came just a week before the wedding when one of her senior cats suddenly got ill. She's had this cat for about 19 years and treats the thing like it's her child. She gave me a heads up that if the cat takes a turn for the worse, she wouldn't be able to attend the wedding. I kind of brushed it off since the cat has had health problems before and it worked out fine. But the morning of the wedding I got a call from my sister crying that she just had to put her cat down and she wouldn't be able to attend. I'll admit that I definitely lost my temper with her and asked her if she's really going to put her cat dying over her only brother getting married. That she's going to leave me without family at my own wedding, and hung up. She didn't show up, and that was quickly noticed by everyone at the wedding, taking attention off me and my husband. We have not spoken since our last call, and we've never gone so long without speaking before. YTA. 1. She gave you a heads up that this could happen, and you didn't raise an issue when you were notified. 2. Your lack of empathy towards your sister losing someone close to her is appalling. To a lot of cat owners, their cats are something close to a family. 3. Taking attention off me and my husband. Reeks of entitlement. YTA, would you rather have her on the front row bawling her eyes out? She's in grief for a pet she has had for 19 years. Have a little compassion. YTA, to you it's a cat, to her it's family. She just literally presided over the death of her best friend since childhood, and she's supposed to come perform happiness at your wedding? You could have said something like, "I'm so sorry, that's really awful. I understand. I would love it if you still feel you can come. I'd like to be able to give you a hug and exchange support and share some cake and wine. I'm just so sorry." You could have opened the door for your sister to trust that she'd be welcome, just as she was. But no. You blew up and made it a contest between you and her very real, fresh grief. It sucks that you didn't have more family at your wedding, but that's on the people who rejected you, not on your sister. She can't make up for their failings. Apologize, mean it, and sincerely ask how she's doing since her loss. You have every right to be upset and feel hurt. Your sister missed your wedding, and that sucks so bad, but you were really mean. For 20 years of her 31-year life, she has had this cat. That's 2/3 of her entire life that she has cared for and loved this cat. She's devastated, and, while you can be upset, you can't act like this. Am I the antagonist for buying personalized stationery for my daughter so it can't be redistributed in class? My little girl, Mia, F9, has started a new school recently. We started, and she had to start a new school. I got a list of supplies that the teacher required, plus extras like extra packs of crayons, etc. You know the deal. While I don't necessarily agree with this, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on, so I got everything on that list. However, I also got my child her own supplies. Now, the list didn't say to not label them. Mia is very particular on what type of stationery she likes. I've heard horror stories of kids' stuff being redistributed and them ending up with crappy supplies, so I sat down with Mia, and we got her personalized binders and notebooks and pencils with her name on Etsy. It's all part of the item, so can't be removed and given to another kid. Like I said, as requested, I bought extra binders, etc. It turns out that I was right to do so. When Mia got home, she brought a passive-aggressive note from the teacher about Mia's supplies. Apparently, she tried to gather all supplies and have kids pick another one. She requested that I switch Mia's supplies to generic ones, which I'm refusing to do. The teacher now requested that I stop by to have a chat regarding Mia's supplies. I posted in a local FB group and parents are divided, so I need another opinion before I go meet with Mia's teacher. Am I the asshole for buying my child personalized stationery so it cannot be taken away from her? Info. You bought everything that was requested and Mia's personalized supplies? NTA, you bought extra as requested and then personalized for your daughter. I don't know what the teacher has a problem with. She purposefully didn't mention that she was gonna switch up the kids' supplies and is mad you foiled her plans? Then what are the extras for? NTA, why spend all the money to buying good supplies for your children and even getting extra binders for them if they're gonna end up crappy ones due to exchanging? What exactly is their teacher trying to impart to them? I'm confused. Is this something that happens in every school? Your job is to provide for your child. Be it standard run-of-the-mill supplies or specialized really should not matter because it is only for your child. You also bought the extra supplies for in case little Timmy loses every single pencil he's ever handed or Jenny drops her folder in the mud. You really shouldn't be required to buy the extras anyway. If you can, and you do, then cool, but trying to say it is required is just bull. That's unnecessary. The school should have all of these supplies available, parents shouldn't have to buy them. It's insane how underfunded the school system is there that people think this is okay or even normal. Am I the antagonist for eating the only food at home that my little brother could eat? We came back from our trip last night. It was late and my little brother Neil, 5 male, and I, 17 female, were hungry. My parents bought 2 sandwiches for us. I need to add that my parents are against fast food. The number of times I have eaten fast food in my entire life is less than 10, and I really love fast food. We got home and Neil was running around as usual while my parents tried to get him to sit down and eat, but he grabbed the sandwich and ran. At one point he went to the bathroom and accidentally dropped the sandwich there. He couldn't eat it anymore, so my parents looked for something else for him to eat, but we only had eggs at home and he doesn't eat eggs, sensory issues, and it was too late to get anything for him. My parents told me to give my sandwich to my brother and eat eggs instead. They said if I do this they will buy one for me tomorrow. I know they wouldn't because that's what they always do. Every time I give Neil something the next day, I ask them when they are buying it for me, and they say, "Oh, we are not actually gonna buy it for you," so before anyone could take it I grabbed it, went to my room, locked the door, and ate it. Now I'm grounded and they say it was an move to make my little brother go to bed hungry. NTA. They need to parent your brother better and not demand you give up your food while lying about replacing it. It's just easier for them to reason with a 17-year-old than manage a 5-year-old who they clearly don't set boundaries for. How regularly are you having to give up food for your brother? Apparently every time this happens they lie, so I'm curious as to how many times this has happened. NTA. You wouldn't have had to go hide in your room if your parents didn't regularly lie to you. Also, you didn't let your brother go to bed hungry. They did. If they saw you go and eat the sandwich and their response was, "Well, nothing to be done." 5 years old is gonna be super hungry. I guess they are very obviously TA. They could go out and get another sandwich. Plus, what was he going to eat for breakfast? If there was literally no food in the house apart from one thing he can't eat, they were going to run into the exact same situation tomorrow morning before they got to the shop. Next time ask for the money up front to replace it. Explain that they never keep their word. Hopefully you will be going to college soon. Move out and allow them to parent their spoiled child. My little cousins know how to sit down and eat. They are autistic too. It's called parenting your child.